morning sky over Seoul changed from blue to black in less than 10 seconds. President Lee Dae-ho was drinking his coffee when his aide burst into the office. "Sir, you need to see this right now." Above Earth, massive ships blocked out the sun. They were huge, each one bigger than entire cities. The alien vessels had strange shapes with glowing lights running along their sides. More and more ships kept appearing from nowhere, filling the sky like dark clouds. People around the world stopped what they were doing. They looked up and saw the impossible sight. Car accidents happened as drivers stared at the sky. Children pointed and asked their parents what those things were. Nobody had an answer. In the United Nations building in New York, emergency alarms rang loud and clear. World leaders rushed to the main meeting room. Their faces showed fear and confusion. This was the moment humans had always wondered about. First contact with aliens. But it was not going the way anyone had hoped. President Lee Dae-ho arrived at the UN meeting room 30 minutes later. He looked calm, which surprised everyone else. The other leaders were sweating and talking fast. Some were already discussing surrender terms. "Maybe we should try to negotiate," said the British Prime Minister, his voice shaking. "Negotiate what?" asked the President of Brazil. "We have nothing they could want." General Park Min-soo sat quietly in the corner. He was the head of Korea's defense forces. His dark eyes watched the big screen showing the alien ships. Next to him, Admiral Choi Yuna from the Pacific Fleet looked relaxed. She was even smiling a little. The alien message came at exactly noon. "Earth time," a voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded strange, like someone talking through water. The voice was cold and had no emotion. "Primitive beings of the third planet, we are the galactic hegemony. We have come to your world to offer you a choice." The huge screen in the meeting room showed an alien face. It had gray skin, large black eyes, and a mouth that barely moved when it spoke. Behind the alien, they could see a massive bridge filled with strange technology. "I am Admiral Crix of the Vorthak Empire. We speak for 10,000 conquered worlds. Your planet will join our empire, or your planet will be destroyed. This is not a request. This is an ultimatum." The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the screen. Admiral Crix continued speaking. "We have studied your primitive civilization. You have no space fleet. You have no weapons that can reach us. You have no shields to protect your cities. Resistance is impossible." The alien's black eyes seemed to look directly at each person in the room. "To show you our power, we will destroy your moon in exactly 72 hours. After that demonstration, you will surrender completely. Your governments will step down. Your military will disarm. Your people will serve the hegemony." Images appeared on the screen showing massive weapons on the alien ships. Energy beams that could melt mountains, shields that could stop nuclear bombs, ships that could travel faster than light. "We have conquered species far more advanced than yours," Admiral Crix said. "Some had weapons you cannot imagine. Others had technology that bent space and time. All of them fell before our might. You are nothing compared to them." The transmission showed battles from other worlds, cities burning, armies running away in fear, entire planets surrendering without a fight. "You have 72 hours to prepare your surrender. Any attempt to resist will result in the complete destruction of your world. We will turn your planet into space dust. This is your only warning." The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The only sound was the quiet hum of the air conditioning and someone's heavy breathing. The President of France was the first to break the silence. "We have to surrender. What choice do we have?" "They're right," said the Chancellor of Germany. "We have no space weapons, no way to fight back. If we resist, they'll kill everyone." More leaders agreed. They talked about how to organize the surrender, how to keep people calm, how to make the transition as smooth as possible. President Lee Dae-ho listened to all of this without saying a word. He looked at his phone and saw a text message from someone named Kim Ji-woo. He read it and his mouth curved into a small smile. "Excuse me," President Lee said, standing up. Everyone turned to look at him. "I think we're missing something important here." He walked over to the communication console. I'd like to send a reply to our new friends." "What are you doing?" asked the U.S. president. "We can't provoke them." "Don't worry," President Lee said. He pressed a button and spoke into the microphone. His voice was calm and friendly, like he was talking to old friends. "Admiral Crix, this is President Lee Dae-ho of Earth. We received your message. Thank you for letting us know about your plans." The other leaders looked shocked. Some tried to stop him, but General Park Min-soo and Admiral Choi Yuna moved to block them. President Lee continued speaking. "We appreciate the 72-hour notice. That's very polite of you. However, we have a counteroffer." He paused and looked around the room. His eyes were bright with amusement. "You have 72 hours to leave our solar system peacefully. After that, we cannot guarantee your safety." The room exploded in shouts and arguments. "Are you insane? You'll get us all killed." "This is madness." President Lee raised his hand for silence. When the room quieted down, he spoke again into the microphone. "Oh, and Admiral Crix? That thing about destroying our moon to show your power?" President Lee chuckled softly. "That's adorable. He turned off the communication system and faced the room full of angry, terrified world leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said with a calm smile, "I think it's time we showed our guests what Earth is really capable of." Outside the building, people around the world watched the alien ships and waited to see what would happen next. They didn't know that deep under the ocean, ancient systems were waking up. They didn't know that satellites they thought were for weather monitoring were actually something much more interesting. They didn't know that Earth had been ready for this day for a very long time. Admiral Crix, sitting on his command bridge high above Earth, was confused by the human response. In all his years of conquest, no primitive species had ever replied with such confidence. Usually they begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. Sometimes they attacked with their pathetic weapons. But they never acted like the humans just did, like they were the ones in control. He looked at his tactical officer. "Are you sure these humans have no space fleet?" "Positive, sir. No ships larger than their primitive aircraft, no orbital weapons, no energy shields. They are completely defenseless." Admiral Crix stared down at the blue and white planet below. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't figure out what it was. 72 hours, he said to himself. Then we'll see how adorable they think we are. "Run the scan again," he told his intelligence officer. Officer Vextar pressed buttons on his console. Green lights blinked as the ship's powerful sensors swept across Earth one more time. After 5 minutes, he looked up with confusion on his face. "The results are the same, Admiral. The humans have no space fleet, no orbital weapons, no energy shields around their planet. Their most advanced aircraft cannot even leave their atmosphere." Admiral Crix walked to the large window of his command bridge. Below him, Earth looked peaceful and blue. White clouds moved slowly across the continents. It looked like any other primitive world he had conquered. Then why did their leader sound so confident? Admiral Crix asked. "Perhaps it was just bravado, sir. Many primitive species try to act brave before they surrender. It makes them feel better about losing." But Admiral Crix had conquered over 200 worlds. He knew the difference between false courage and real confidence. The human leader had sounded like someone who knew something the aliens did not. "Keep scanning," he ordered. "There must be something we're missing." On Earth, things were very different from what the aliens could see. Deep under the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Shin Hyejin sat in a control room that did not officially exist. The room was filled with screens showing numbers and graphs that would have confused the best alien scientist. "Status report," she said into her headset. "All grid stations are online," came a voice from her earpiece. "We have full coverage of the solar system." Dr. Shin smiled. She was the director of something called the Terran Defense Grid. To most people on Earth, it was just a theory in science books. But Dr. Shin and her team had been building it in secret for over 50 years. What the aliens thought were weather. Satellites were actually parts of a massive defense system. What looked like communication towers were really weapons that could destroy entire fleets. And the space stations that seemed to study the sun were actually power collectors that could fuel weapons beyond alien understanding. "Dr. Shin," said another voice in her earpiece, "we're getting movement from the Mars station." Dr. Shin looked at a screen showing the red planet. Patch me through to Captain Yoon. Captain Yoon Tae-ho was sitting on what looked like a simple cargo ship near Mars. The ship was called the Indomitable, and it looked old and slow. The alien scanners had looked at it many times and decided it was not worth worrying about. They were very wrong. "Captain Yoon here," came his voice through. "The communication system. How long until you can reach Earth?" Dr. Shin asked. "If I push the engines, about 30 minutes, but I don't think we'll need to rush. The aliens haven't figured out what they're really dealing with yet." Captain Yoon looked at his control panel. To alien eyes, it would look like simple buttons and switches. But hidden inside his cargo ship was technology that made the alien fleet look like toys made by children. The Indomitable could move faster than light without making the noise and energy that alien ships made. It could become invisible to any scanner, and its weapons could destroy planets if Captain Yoon wanted them to. But Captain Yoon was not a destroyer. He was a protector. Like all humans who worked in space, his job was to keep Earth safe while making sure nobody knew Earth needed protecting. Back on the alien flagship, Admiral Crix was getting more frustrated. "Sir," said Vextar, looking at his screens, "the humans are doing something strange." "What kind of strange?" "They're not panicking. Usually when we threaten a world, the population goes crazy. People run around. Governments fall apart. Armies try to attack us with their primitive weapons. But look at this." Vextar showed Admiral Crix pictures from Earth's surface. People were going to work normally. Children were going to school. Traffic moved the same as always. Some people looked up at the alien ships, but most just continued their daily lives. "Maybe they don't understand the danger," suggested another officer. "No," said Admiral Crix slowly. "They understand. But they're not afraid. Why aren't they afraid?" The answer was something the aliens could not have imagined. In a small coffee shop in Seoul, two old men sat playing chess. One of them looked up at the dark shapes in the sky and chuckled. "Remember the last time someone tried to invade Earth?" he asked his friend. "Which time?" his friend replied, moving a chess piece. "The Zephyrians in 2089? Or the Void Collective in 2134? I was thinking of the Crystalline Empire in 2156. They had those big ships too." "Oh yes. They lasted almost 6 hours before they begged us to let them leave." The two men laughed and continued their game. Above them, the alien ships looked threatening and powerful. But these old men remembered when other invincible fleets had come to Earth. They also remembered what happened to those fleets. Most humans on Earth knew the truth, even if they didn't talk about it openly. Earth was not defenseless. Earth was not primitive. Earth was the most dangerous planet in the galaxy, and humans were the most dangerous species anyone had ever met. They just didn't like to show off. On the alien flagship, Admiral Crix decided to test the humans. He would fire one small shot at their moon, just to show them his power. Surely then they would understand and surrender. "Charge the main plasma cannon," he ordered. "Minimum power, just enough to leave a crater they can see from their planet." The weapon charged with a deep humming sound. Energy readings climbed higher and higher. The cannon was designed to crack planets, but Admiral Crix only wanted to make a small hole in the moon. Firing in 3, 2, 1, fire. A bright beam of energy shot from the alien ship toward the moon. It was beautiful and terrible, like a spear made of lightning. The beam hit something invisible around the moon and disappeared. "What happened?" Admiral Crix shouted. "I don't know, sir. The energy just stopped." On the moon, Engineer Nam Soo-bin was sitting in Luna City Control, drinking tea and reading a book. When the alien weapon hit the moon's defense shield, a small light blinked on his control panel. Nam Soo-bin looked at the light, then looked at his energy readings. The alien attack had actually added power to the moon's systems. "Huh," he said to himself. "I think they're trying to charge our batteries." He pressed a button and spoke into his microphone. "Earth Control, this is Luna City. The visitors just donated some energy to our power grid. Should I send them a thank you note?" Back on the alien ship, panic was spreading through the crew. "Sir, we hit the moon with enough power to destroy a mountain, but there's no damage at all." That's impossible. Run a full diagnostic on our weapons. All weapons are working perfectly, sir, but our energy just disappeared when it hit the moon. Admiral Crick stared at the moon through his ship's telescopes. It looked exactly the same as before, not even a scratch. What kind of shield could absorb a plasma cannon blast without even glowing? None of his officers had an answer. What, Admiral? Crix didn't know was that humans had learned to build shields by studying black holes. Alien shields tried to stop energy. Human shields ate energy and used it to make themselves stronger. The more the aliens attacked, the more powerful Earth's defenses became. Admiral Crix was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans weren't acting confident because they were crazy. They were acting confident because they could afford to be. Sir, said Vextar quietly. What do we do now? Admiral Crix looked down at the peaceful blue planet and realized something that made his blood run cold. Earth wasn't hiding because they were weak. Earth was hiding because they were being polite. Admiral Crix had never been this angry in his long career of conquest. All ships prepare for full assault, he shouted into his communication system. Every weapon maximum power. I want to see this planet burn. The alien fleet moved into attack formation. 2,000 ships spread across the sky above Earth. Each ship powered up weapons that could level mountains. Energy readings climbed so high that the ships glowed like small suns. On Earth, people looked up and saw the light show beginning. But instead of running in fear, many of them brought out chairs and snacks. In Tokyo, families gathered on rooftops to watch. In London, people opened their windows for a better view. Looks like they're really upset now, said an old woman in New York, knitting while watching the sky. About time, replied her neighbor. I was getting bored. In the International Space Defense Center, Dr. Bae Jun-ho sat at his control station with a cup of coffee. He was the head of Earth's energy management systems. His job was to make sure the planet had enough power for everything it needed. Today was going to be a very good day for power collection. All stations, this is command, Dr. Bae spoke into his headset. We're about to receive a massive energy donation. Make sure all collectors are ready. Across the planet, hidden systems came online. What looked like ordinary buildings opened secret panels. Fake mountains revealed themselves to be enormous energy collectors. Even the pyramids in Egypt opened up, showing advanced technology that had been hidden for thousands of years. Above Earth, Admiral Crix gave the final order. Fire everything. 2,000 alien ships fired at once. The space around Earth filled with deadly energy beams, plasma, bolts, and quantum missiles. It was the most powerful attack in the history of the galactic hegemony. The combined firepower could destroy entire star systems. The energy storm hit Earth's defense shield and something beautiful happened. Instead of exploding, the shield began to glow with soft blue light. The alien weapons fed power into Earth's collectors like water filling a lake. Energy readings on Earth jumped higher than they had ever been before. The attack continued for 6 hours. The aliens fired every weapon they had until their ship's power cores were nearly empty. When the energy storm finally ended, Admiral Crix looked at his scanners to see the damage. Earth's shield was not only intact, it was brighter than before. Damage. Report, Admiral Crix demanded. Sir, his weapons officer's voice was barely a whisper. No damage, none at all. Their shield actually got stronger while we were shooting at it. Dr. Bae Jun-ho pressed a button and opened a communication channel. To the alien fleet, his voice was cheerful and polite. Thank you for the energy donation. Our morning coffee is now perfectly heated. Would you like some? We make excellent coffee here on Earth. The silence from the alien fleet was so complete that Dr. Bae wondered if his communication system was broken. Finally, Admiral Crix's voice came through, filled with confusion and fear. What are you? We're humans, Dr. Bae replied simply. We live on Earth. We like coffee, good food, and friendly neighbors. You seem upset. Are you having a bad day? Admiral Crix turned to his science officer. How is this possible? Our weapons should have cracked their planet in half. I don't know, sir. According to our readings, their shield technology is based on principles we don't understand. It's like they're using controlled black holes to absorb energy. That's impossible, No species has ever mastered black hole manipulation. Apparently, sir, someone has. Admiral Crix realized his fleet was in serious trouble. He decided to retreat and call for backup from the hegemony's home worlds. But when he tried to activate his faster-than-light engines, nothing happened. "Sir, we can't jump to hyperspace," reported his navigation officer. "Something is interfering with our engines." "What kind of interference?" "Unknown, sir. It's like space itself is being controlled around us." The truth was much simpler than the aliens imagined. Commander Osiri had arrived with Earth's real fleet. Her ship, the Prometheus, looked like a small research vessel. It was only half the size of the smallest alien ship. But appearances, as the aliens were learning, meant nothing when it came to humans. Commander Osiri was floating in space near her ship, wearing a simple white spacesuit. She looked comfortable and relaxed, like someone taking a walk in a park. Behind her, more human ships began to appear. They didn't arrive with the noise and flash that alien ships made. They simply faded into existence, as if they had always been there. Some looked like asteroids. Others looked like clouds of space dust. A few didn't look like anything at all. They were completely invisible until they wanted to be seen. "Alien vessels." Commander Osiri's voice was polite but firm. "You are in violation of solar system airspace regulations. Please prepare to be escorted out." Admiral Crix looked at his tactical screens. Where before there had been empty space, now there were dozens of human ships surrounding his fleet. The energy readings from these small vessels made his massive fleet look like children's toys. "How many ships do you have?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Oh, this is just the local patrol," Commander Osiri replied. "We didn't want to bring too many ships. It would have been rude to show off." Admiral Crix made one last desperate decision. If he couldn't destroy the planet, maybe he could destroy the human cities. He ordered his remaining ships to target Earth's major population centers directly. "Fire on their cities, all remaining power." The alien weapons fired again, targeting New York, Tokyo, London, and Seoul. The beams passed through the buildings and hit the ground harmlessly. People on the streets looked up as the energy beams passed over their heads. Some waved at the pretty lights, children pointed and laughed. "Mommy, why are the aliens shooting light shows at us?" asked a little girl in Seoul. "I think they're trying to be entertaining," her mother replied. "But they're not very good at it." What the aliens had been shooting at were holographic projections. Earth's real cities existed in folded space, completely separate from normal reality. The buildings the aliens could see were just light patterns designed to make visitors think Earth was a normal planet. Admiral Crix stared at his screens in complete defeat. Every weapon he had fired, every strategy he had tried, every advantage he thought he possessed, all of it was useless against these humans. "Commander Osiri," he spoke into his communication system. We surrender." "That's wonderful." Commander Osiri sounded genuinely happy. "Surrender is much better than fighting. Fighting is messy and someone always gets hurt." She paused for a moment, then continued in the same friendly tone. "Now, we have a few options for you. You can leave our solar system and go home peacefully, or you can stay and learn about Earth culture. We have excellent restaurants and our entertainment systems are quite good. We also have very comfortable guest quarters if you'd like to rest before making your decision." Admiral Crix couldn't understand this response. In his experience, surrender meant slavery or death. The humans were offering him vacation options. "Why aren't you destroying us?" he asked. "Why would we destroy you?" Commander Osiri sounded genuinely confused. "You're not evil. You're just confused. Confused people need help, not destruction." For the first time in his military career, Admiral Crix found himself completely lost. These humans had technology that made his advanced civilization look primitive. They had weapons that could destroy his entire fleet without effort. They had power beyond his imagination. And they were offering him coffee and comfortable guest rooms. "I need to speak with my superiors," Admiral Crix said weakly. "Of course," Commander Osiri replied. "Take all the time you need. We'll wait, right here. Oh, and Admiral, your ship's life support systems are running low after that big battle. We're sending over some fresh air and snacks, no charge. As human ships began docking with alien vessels to deliver supplies, Admiral Crix realized the most terrifying truth of all. The humans weren't just more advanced than his species. They were also much, much nicer, and that scared him more than any weapon ever could. Admiral Crix sat in his command chair, staring at the small human ship floating near his massive flagship. The Prometheus looked like a toy compared to his vessel, yet he knew it could destroy his entire fleet without working up a sweat. "I need answers," he said into his communication system. "How did your species become so advanced? We have conquered 10,000 worlds. We have seen civilizations that existed for millions of years. None of them had technology like yours." "Commander," Sari's voice came back, still friendly and patient. "Would you like to come aboard our ship? It's easier to explain face to face, and we really do make excellent coffee." 2 hours later, Admiral Crix found himself sitting in what the humans called a conference room. It looked comfortable and simple, with soft chairs and warm lighting. Nothing about it suggested the incredible power hidden inside this small ship. Commander Osiri poured coffee into a white cup and handed it to him. The liquid was dark and smelled wonderful. Admiral Crix had never tasted anything like it. "This is delicious," he admitted. "Coffee is one of our greatest achievements," Commander Osiri said with a smile. "We've been perfecting it for over 1,000 years." The door opened and an older human entered. He looked kind and wise with gray hair and gentle eyes. Commander Osiri stood up respectfully. "Admiral Crix, this is Professor Kim Dongwoo. He's our leading expert on galactic civilizations. He can answer your questions better than I can." Professor Kim sat down across from Admiral Crix and poured himself coffee. "I understand you want to know how humans became so advanced." "Yes. Your technology is impossible. We have studied the laws of physics for thousands of years. What you do should not be possible." Professor Kim nodded thoughtfully. "You're right. Most civilizations couldn't develop our technology. We only managed it because we had a very special teacher." "What teacher? Which advanced race shared their knowledge with you?" Professor Kim chuckled softly. "Not a race, Admiral. A planet. Earth taught us everything we know." Admiral Crix looked confused. "Planets don't teach. They're just rocks floating in space." "Most planets are," Professor Kim agreed. "But Earth is different. Earth is what we call a death world." He touched a control panel and the room's walls became screens showing images of Earth. But these weren't the peaceful scenes Admiral Crix had seen from space. These showed terrible storms, massive earthquakes, erupting volcanoes, and floods that covered entire continents. "Earth tries to kill us," Professor Kim explained calmly. "It has been trying to kill us for our entire existence as a species. Hurricanes that can level cities, earthquakes that crack continents, volcanoes that block out the sun, ice ages that freeze entire planets, diseases that kill millions." Admiral Crix stared at the images. "How do you survive on such a world?" "By becoming very, very clever. While other species develop technology to fight each other, we develop technology to fight our planet. We learned to predict earthquakes before they happened. We learned to stop hurricanes. We learned to live underwater, underground, and in the middle of volcanoes." More images appeared on the screens. Humans living in underwater cities. Humans working inside active volcanoes. Humans building homes that could survive any disaster Earth could create. "Your shields," Admiral Crix said slowly. "You learned to build them by fighting natural disasters." "Exactly. We needed shields that could stop anything. Earthquakes, tsunamis, meteorites, solar flares. So we learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. Black holes, gravity, space-time itself. If Earth threw it at us, we learned to stop it." Professor Kim showed images of human cities surviving disasters that would destroy most civilizations. "We didn't learn to build weapons to conquer neighbors. We learned to build tools to survive the impossible." Admiral Crix was beginning to understand. The other worlds we conquered, they were peaceful worlds. Garden worlds. Professor Kim confirmed. Beautiful, stable, safe, perfect for developing civilization. but terrible for developing the kind of technology you need to survive a death world. So you're more advanced because your planet is more dangerous. Not just more advanced. Different. We think differently than other species. When you see a problem, you think about how to defeat it. When we see a problem, we think about how to survive it and maybe make friends with it. Captain Lee Bo-young entered the room at that moment. She was tall and confident, with the bearing of someone who had seen many worlds. Professor Kim introduced her as the commander of Earth's Deep Space Command. Admiral Crix, Captain Lee said, sitting down with her own cup of coffee. Professor Kim has been explaining about Earth, but there's something else you should know. She activated another screen showing a map of the galaxy. It was covered with small blue dots. Each of these dots is a human colony, Captain Lee explained. Admiral Crix looked at the map in shock. There were thousands of dots scattered across the galaxy. But our scouts never found any human colonies. You weren't looking in the right places. You looked for garden worlds like your own. We don't live on garden worlds. Captain Lee zoomed in on different sections of the map. This is Colony Epsilon 7. It's built inside a star. Colony Gamma 12 orbits a black hole. Colony Delta 3 is on a planet with acid rain and poisonous atmosphere. Colony Zeta 9 travels through the void between galaxies. You live inside stars? It's quite comfortable once you get used to it. The heat provides excellent power, and the radiation keeps harmful bacteria away. Admiral Crix felt his understanding of reality crumbling. You colonize worlds that would kill us instantly. Every world tries to kill someone, Captain Lee said with a shrug. We just got very good at not dying. Professor Kim leaned forward. Admiral, your empire conquers garden worlds because those are the only worlds you can live on. But there are millions of death worlds in the galaxy that no one else wants. We've been quietly moving into them for centuries. How many colonies do you have? About 50,000 at last count, Captain Lee replied casually. We would have more, but we keep finding worlds that are so dangerous they're actually interesting challenges. It takes time to figure out how to live on a planet made entirely of plasma. Admiral Crix was quiet for a long time, thinking about what he had learned. Finally, he spoke. You could have conquered the galaxy thousands of years ago. Why would we want to? Professor Kim asked, genuinely curious. Power. Resources. Control. We have all the power we need from stars and black holes. We have all the resources we need from dead worlds no one else wants. And controlling other people sounds like a lot of work. Captain Lee nodded. Plus, most species are really nice once you get to know them. The hegemony has some very interesting art forms. The Crystalline Empire makes beautiful music. The Void Collective writes excellent poetry. Why would we want to control them when we could be friends instead? Admiral Crix realized he was facing something completely outside his experience. An empire that was more powerful than anything he could imagine, but that preferred friendship to conquest. What do you want from us? He asked. Professor Kim smiled kindly. We want you to be happy and safe. We want you to explore the galaxy and make beautiful things. We want you to discover new worlds and learn new ideas. We want you to be the best version of yourselves. And if we refuse, then we'll be sad. But we'll respect your choice. We might check on you occasionally to make sure you're okay. But we won't force you to do anything. Admiral Crix had spent his entire life believing that power meant control, and control meant conquest. These humans had more power than anyone in galactic history, but they used it to help others and protect beauty. I need to contact my government, he said finally. Of course, Professor Kim replied. Take all the time you need. We'll be here when you're ready to talk. As Admiral Crix returned to his ship, he realized that everything he thought he knew about strength, power, and civilization was wrong. The humans weren't just more advanced. They were more evolved. 3 days later, Admiral Crix stood before the Supreme Council of the Galactic Hegemony. The meeting was held through quantum communication, allowing representatives from thousands of worlds to attend without traveling. The council chamber on his flagship was filled with holographic images of alien leaders, all waiting to hear his report. Explain your failure, demanded Supreme Chancellor Vox Miran, a tall alien with purple skin and 6 arms. How did a primitive world defeat our greatest fleet? Admiral Crix took a deep breath. Honored Council, the humans are not primitive. They are the most advanced species in the galaxy, perhaps in the universe. Angry voices filled the chamber. Impossible. They have no space fleet. You must be mistaken. I have seen their technology, Admiral Crix continued. They live inside stars. They travel between galaxies. They control black holes like we control simple machines. Compared to them, we are the primitive ones. Supreme Chancellor Vox Miran's face showed disbelief. If they are so powerful, why didn't they conquer us long ago? Because they don't want to conquer anyone. They want to help. The council chamber fell silent. In the history of galactic civilization, no one had ever said those words about a powerful species. Fleet Admiral Jung Mi-young appeared in the chamber as a hologram. She looked calm and professional, like someone attending a business meeting. Behind her, they could see the bridge of her ship, with humans working quietly at their stations. Greetings, Galactic Hegemony Council, she said politely. I am Fleet Admiral Jung Mi-young of the Terran Defense Force. We understand you would like to discuss recent events. Supreme Chancellor Vox Miran leaned forward. Are you here to demand our surrender? Oh no, Admiral Jung replied, with a gentle smile. We're here to offer you a partnership. The council members looked confused. Admiral Crix had expected this reaction. The humans always surprised everyone. A partnership? Asked Councillor Jektar from the reptilian worlds. You could destroy us all. Why offer partnership? Admiral Jung activated a display showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. The galaxy is a big place with many wonderful civilizations. Each species has something special to offer. You have beautiful art, fascinating cultures, and interesting ways of thinking. We would like to learn from you, and perhaps share some things we've learned too. What kind of partnership? Asked Supreme Chancellor Vox Miran cautiously. Dr. Han Chang-woo appeared next to Admiral Jung. He was Earth's new Director of Galactic Relations, appointed just for this meeting. He looked like a friendly teacher, which was exactly what he had been before taking this job. It's quite simple, Dr. Han explained. You continue governing your own worlds exactly as you always have. We don't interfere with your internal affairs, at all. But if you have conflicts with other species, we help you solve them peacefully. And in return? Asked Councillor Yexandra from the machine worlds. In return, we share some of our defensive technology. Not weapons. We don't believe in giving out weapons, but shields, environmental protection, medical advances, things that make life better and safer. Admiral Jung added, We've been watching the galaxy for a long time. There are some very dangerous things out there that make our recent disagreement look like a minor misunderstanding. When those threats arrive, you'll want our protection. Supreme Chancellor Vox Miran's voice was suspicious. What kind of threats? The Devourers are moving this way from the galactic edge. They consume entire star systems. The Shadow Empire is expanding from the dark matter regions. And there are things even worse than those, sleeping in the deep void between galaxies. The council chamber erupted in worried voices. These were threats beyond anything the hegemony had ever imagined. Dr. Han raised his hand for silence. Don't worry. These threats are still many years away. We have time to prepare. And with human protection, your worlds will be completely safe. Why? Should we trust you? Asked Councillor Jektar. Ambassador Ryu Sujin materialized in the chamber. She was young and cheerful, with the kind of smile that made people feel comfortable. She had been Earth's ambassador to difficult situations for over 20 years. Because, Ambassador Ryu said simply, we've been protecting you for centuries without you knowing it. She activated another display showing historical records. The Void Fleet that tried to invade your space in 2089. We redirected them to an empty region where they couldn't hurt anyone. The plague that threatened to wipe out the Crystalline Empire. In 2134? We sent them the cure disguised as a natural mutation. The asteroid that was going to hit the reptilian homeworld in 2156? We moved it to a safe orbit. The council members stared at the evidence in shock. You've been secretly protecting us? Supreme Chancellor Voxmiran asked. Of course, Ambassador Ryu replied. You're our neighbors. Neighbors help each other. Admiral Crick spoke up from his position. Honored Council, I have seen their power. They could have destroyed our fleet instantly. Instead, they offered us food and medical supplies. They could rule the galaxy by force. Instead, they want to rule by kindness. But what do they really want from us? Asked Counselor Yexandra. Dr. Han smiled warmly. We want you to be happy. We want you to grow and learn and create beautiful things. We want the galaxy to be a place where everyone can live in peace and explore the wonders of the universe. That's all? That's everything, Ambassador Ryu said. Happy people create amazing art, make scientific discoveries, and come up with ideas that surprise everyone. Unhappy people just fight wars and destroy things. We prefer the first option. Supreme Chancellor Voxmiran was quiet for a long time, thinking. Finally, he spoke. What would this partnership look like in practice? Admiral Young answered. Your ships will carry transponders identifying you as friends of Earth. If anyone threatens you, they'll have to deal with us. Your scientists can study our shield technology and adapt it for your worlds. Your artists can visit Earth colonies and share ideas with human artists. And if we refuse this partnership? Then we'll be sad, but we'll respect your choice, Dr. Han said. We'll still protect you from the big threats, because that's what neighbors do. But we won't share our technology or invite you to our cultural exchanges. The Council voted that same day. The decision was unanimous. Accept Earth's partnership. 6 months later, Admiral Crick stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, a massive diplomatic facility that humans had built in just 2 weeks. Through the transparent walls, he could see ships from dozens of species docking peacefully. President Lee Dae-ho joined him at the viewing window. The human leader looked older now, but still had the same calm confidence that had impressed Admiral Crick during their first meeting. Any regrets? President Lee asked. Admiral Crick watched a group of young humans and aliens playing together in the station's recreation area. No regrets, but I have questions. I'm happy to answer them. Why did you wait so long to reveal yourselves? You could have brought peace to the galaxy centuries ago. President Lee smiled. We tried that once, long ago with another species. We revealed our technology too early and they became dependent on us. They stopped thinking for themselves, stopped growing, stopped creating. We accidentally turned them into children who could never become adults. So you waited until we were mature enough? We waited until you were wise enough to understand that true strength comes from helping others, not controlling them. Your attack on Earth was actually a graduation test. Admiral Crick looked surprised. A test? If you had chosen diplomacy over force, we would have revealed ourselves as friends immediately. Since you chose force, you had to learn the hard way. That power without wisdom leads nowhere good. Kim Sun-hee, President Lee's aide, approached them with a tablet. Sir, we're getting reports from the Outer Rim. The Devourer scouts have been spotted near the Andromeda Gate. President Lee nodded calmly. Tell Admiral Young to dispatch the 7th Fleet. Nothing too dramatic. We don't want to scare our new partners. As Kim Sun-hee walked away, Admiral Crick realized something that made him grateful for Earth's protection. The threats you mentioned are real. Very real. But don't worry, Earth has been dealing with cosmic horrors for a long time. To us, the Devourers are just another natural disaster to overcome. Admiral Crick looked out at the peaceful scene before them and smiled. The galaxy had found protectors who were strong, enough to face any threat, wise enough to use their power responsibly and kind enough to want everyone to succeed. President Lee, he said, I'm glad Earth heard our ultimatum and replied the way you did. President Lee chuckled. Admiral, when someone threatens your family, there's only one appropriate response. Which is? That's adorable. Now let us show you how family really works. And in the depths of space, Earth's true fleet moved silently toward threats that would have terrified the old hegemony, protecting a galaxy that was finally learning what real strength looked like.